The world's 6 billionth person is born, the Space Shuttle Discovery becomes the first vessel to dock with the International Space Station, and the Euro is introduced. Yup, that's right, welcome to 1999. Sure, lots of important things happened that year, but more and or less important than those things, the 18th Magic the Gathering expansion Mercadian Masques was released in October. A giant 350 card set, Mercadian Masques was the first in a new block of sets, following up the widely popular and tumultuous Urza block. The set symbol depicted a mask one might wear when being sneaky, concealing one's identity, or going to a masquerade. It was representative of the political deceit and backstabbery that Mercadian Masques portrayed so well. While it may not have been the most exciting thing about the set at the time, Mercadian Masques was the first set printed that was 100% exempt from the reserve list impact. Going forward, reprint possibilities galore for all cards, good and terrible. Masques was also the first expansion set to print foil basic lands and booster packs, a decision that caused some to say it was the end of Magic, but a decision that would quickly be accepted and celebrated for all of Magic's tenure. Everyone loves foil lands. In addition, this was the first set to introduce the Fat Pack, my personal favorite product of all time. The old school Fat Packs were fantastic. They included a tournament pack, which was a little box containing 75 cards from the set. Basically, you get 3 booster packs worth of cards, including 3 rares and then a bunch of basic lands. The Fat Pack also came with 3 additional booster packs, a full-size magazine cutout, 2 foil cards, and my favorite inclusion, the set's novel. Continued today as bundles, Fat Packs began a long tradition of being a great middle ground for those who didn't want to buy an entire booster box, but wanted more than a single pack and also wanted to embrace the story of the game. Last fun fact for you, Mercadian Masques was only supposed to be the name of the book, not the set itself, but the brand team wanted consistency across the products, and it became the name of the set retroactively, effectively making the novel the real hero of the entire release. Mercadian Masques was a unique set in a lot of ways. Surprisingly, it didn't introduce a single new keyword mechanic, but that doesn't mean it wasn't memorable. Masques is the first set to feature the Mercenary, Spellshaper, Monger, and most impactful of all, Rebel creature types. The ability to search your library for more of the same creature type wasn't exactly a common ability at the time, and both Mercenaries and Rebels made this quite popular, Rebels to a degree that would impact Magic forever. In addition, this set's spell shapers were the first of their kind, imprinting classic abilities on creatures that garnered a lot of attention. From past card effects printed on commons like Dark Ritual and Disenchant, all the way to stronger card effects printed on rares such as Dark Banishing or Stone Rain. This design was unique at the time and the first nod of this type to past cards. The set included plenty of other interesting cards. Just because it lacked new keywords doesn't mean it lacked in sufficiently awesome and unique design. There was a whole set of enchant creatures with flash. The Monger card type brought abilities that anyone could activate, a severe departure from the norm design-wise at the time, and the set introduced a bevy of complicated non-basic lands. Both depletion and storage lands were a part of Mercadian Masques, introducing many players to the concept of balancing counters on your lands as a way to get ahead. Relatively advanced at the time and very cool. On release, the set came under heavy fire as supposed evidence that Wizards of the Coast was running out of ideas. Following a block like Urza's, it was hard to compare, and Masques wasn't designed for that purpose. This is one of the first instances of power creep reset. Urza block was so fundamentally powerful that the designers had to put the brakes on. Mercadian Masques was the victim of design power creep. Similar to Scars of Mirrodin after Rise of the Eldrazi, there's always one set that has to take the fall. Unfortunately, Masques was that set, or at least most thought it was. Back in 1999, when the set first came out, Two-Headed Dragon was all the rage. In most older sets, the biggest or flashiest creature tended to lead the set in terms of release price. This dragon was a whopping $15 on release, which was very high at the time. Super fire breathing and the ability to block multiple creatures made the Two-Headed Dragon very popular among big creature fans, dragon fans, casual players, and all the Timmies in the world. The second most expensive card and flagship in the set was Squee Goblin Nabob, a powerful and popular character in Magic's story. Squee was part of the marketing campaign for the set and was quite sought after at $10 on release. Half a joke and half legitimate demand, Squee's price was driven by his resilient trigger, a trigger relatively unknown to most Magic players at the time. This natural recursion back to the hand hadn't been fleshed out much yet, especially in Red. There were also a number of cards that released at $8 each, many of them flashy or with interesting, unique abilities. Bribery was one of these cards. Even back in 1999, there was no lack of giant creatures to grab with this. An opponent's deck tutor isn't something most players could pass up, and this quickly became a casual staple and beloved card. Del Rake was also $8. Back in the 90s, a mono-black strategy existed in multiple formats that essentially sacrificed itself in order to kill its opponent faster. Cards like Carnifage, Flesh Reaver, and Phyrexian Negator headlined behind a lot of these strategies, ramped out by Dark Ritual and the like, an aggressive, reckless strategy. So when Delray came along, it fit pretty well into this game plan. It has trample, so being a 6/6 is extra valuable, and alternative casting costs had historically been pretty broken. Most players don't even know this card exists, but it was interesting at the time. The last 3 $8 cards in the set on release were Ivory Mask, the popular Pillow Fort enchantment, then Rushwood Elemental and Tidal Kraken, because again, giant creatures made players happy, and the rare ones always garnered a lot of attention. You'll notice that I didn't really mention standard or much constructed play when I was talking about the price justifications for the cards on release. That's because Mercadian Masques entered a competitive landscape that was effectively a barren wasteland of banned cards and overpowered nonsense. Coming on the heels of Urza block, arguably the most powerful block of all time relative to the standard, there wasn't much Mercadian Masques could do to compete. Before rotation, the standard landscape was hostile to say the least. Mono black decks were very powerful, many utilizing aggressive lines of play, including Dark Ritual ramping into Phyrexian Negator on turn 1. There was also a strong Stompy deck that made up a respectable portion of the meta, combining the early game powers of Albino Troll, Pouncing Jaguar, and River Boa, with added pressure spells like Rancor and Curse Scroll. As a matter of fact, Curse Scroll was featured in well over half of all strategies at the time, leaning more towards aggressive deck inclusion. Basically, it was impossible to go to a whole event without coming up against it. There were other strategies that performed well. Wildfire made itself competitive utilizing a deck entirely made up of strong mana rocks like Grim Monolith and Thran Dynamo, combined with synergistic creatures Covetous Dragon and Masticore, then using Temporal Aperture to grab whatever you want, with the entire deck supported by Voltaic Key. There were Oath of Druid strategies, mono blue control using Treachery, Powder Keg, and Masticore to win games behind a million counterspells. Even land destruction was annoyingly competitive. Thank you, Avalanche Riders, Pillage, Stone Rain, and Flowstone Flood. The point is that while Combo Winter was oppressive and almost destroyed the game, coming out the other end was a relatively varied but outrageously powerful meta. So Mercadian Masques releases, everyone gets their hands on the new cards, and instead of focusing on standard, all the attention shifted to extended, a format that is essentially double standard, doubling the available card pool and going back about 4 years worth of releases. Because the format covers so wide a card pool, it wasn't likely Mercadian Masques was going to define the format, but it did get a participation trophy or two. Ivory Mask made its way into plenty of combo decks, most notably Oath of Druid strategies. Survival of the Fittest, the toolbox deck of the era, loved Squee. Perfect include in that deck and garnered a lot of attention for how efficient the combo was. And then there's Misdirection. Not exactly overlooked on release, but not given all the attention either. This free single target redirect was the first of its design since Force of Will and was an immediate inclusion into many blue-based strategies across multiple formats. Obviously far more narrow than Force, Misdirection's popularity grew and waned depending on the meta at the time, but it showed up in extended in decks that needed to protect its valuable creatures. Mercadian didn't exactly change the landscape of Magic forever on release, and the set was kept from shining in full and standard until Urza's full rotation a year later. Whenever someone tried to be innovative with the set, an Urza-based strategy would surface and dominate. Throughout the year 2000, even with Nemesis and Prophecy releasing, Tinker strategies playing out Phyrexian Colossus were destroying standard at the time. Of course, these decks did utilize newcomers like Rashad and Port and Tango Wire, two cards that would inevitably become infamous in Magic, but the decks always centered around powerful Urza block cards. So when Urza's block finally did rotate out, we saw what Mercadian Masques block was really made of, and it was not pretty. Rebels, 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 rebels. Without Urza to stand in the way anymore, Mercadian Masques block standard was absolutely dominated by rebel decks. Since being introduced in Mercadian itself, the rebel creature type received a slew of support in subsequent expansions. The primary piece of support coming in the rebel leader Lin Civi Defiant Hero. Easily the most notorious rebel of all time, Lin Civi not only stabilized the rebel strategy, but strengthened it to the point where it held nearly 40% of the standard meta at any given time. Both tutoring and recurring rebels was simply too powerful to deal with for most strategies. When Nemesis came out and Lin Civi was revealed, players liked rebels and thought they could be viable, even garnering some success on the competitive stage in standard, but still mostly overshadowed by Urza block strategies. Without that oppressive force, there was nothing stopping them. In the months following rotation, there was really only one deck that rose up and could beat rebels consistently, and that was all thanks to an unassuming uncommon from the newly released multicolor set Invasion. Fires of Yavimaya brought new life to the red-green aggro strategy, allowing it to compete on the ground with rebels. The deck was fast and strong, using reckless cards like Jade Leech, Blastoderm, Chimeric Idol, Ancient Hydra, and Saproling Burst to apply outrageous pressure, and then giving it all haste with Fires of Yavimaya. The strategy often included cards like Earthquake, which should tell you all you need to know about just how aggressive it was. It was an age of desperation, and beating rebels meant dedicating everything to that pursuit. It wasn't known at the time, but when Mercadian Masques came out, its new Rebel Tutor theme would eventually turn an entire format into a grudge match. Moving forward in time over 20 years to the present, card prices sure have changed for our original heavy hitters. Two-Headed Dragon, which was once the favorite child of the set, is now 30 cents from its original $15. Squee has mostly maintained his $10 price tag, but it's worth mentioning foils of the Goblin Legend are around $400 now. Bribery went from $8 to $20, would have been higher if not for a secret layer drop and 8th edition. Still remains one of the most popular pet cards in the game. Delrake is 70 cents, no one plays this card because it's terrible. Ivory Mask is $3 now from $8 originally. It actually finds more success in the penny format online than an actual paper play. Rushwood Elemental is 80 cents, also not particularly well loved, and Tidal Kraken is a cool $1.75 thanks to a pseudo recent mini bump from Runo Stromkirk. While many of these cards didn't age well, there are some Mercadian Masques All-Stars that put the set on the map forever. Rashadan Port is widely hailed as one of the most powerful lands in the history of the game. It was $4 on release and sits now around $45 for an original printing, even after the Masters 25 reprint. Food Chain, the popular combo piece in Legacy, was $5 on release and is now $21. It was almost $70 at one point, but inclusion in the list and Double Masters 2022 helped to control that insanity. Then the annoying Dust Bowl, Land Destruction Extraordinaire, was $6 on release and is now $16. The set was also known for its peculiar and focused design choices. Unique cards like Crackdown, Fountain Watch, Black Market, and Trade Routes have all made their own respective impacts on the game, started around $4 each on release, and all have either doubled or tripled in value since then. In addition, both Unmask and Misdirection have become staple alternate cost cards throughout Magic's history. Misdirection in particular has had one of the most volatile price movements, hitting new highs and lows, ping-ponging everywhere in a $20 range for the last 20 years. This series is called the Best Cards Ever series because it showcases the historic best that each set has to offer, and this episode is no different. When deciding what to call the best card in the set, there are many factors: impact, power, reputation, hateability of course, but no matter which metric you apply and no matter which angle you look at it from, there's really only one answer. Rashadan Port is the single best card in the entire set. The ability to lock an important land down is crucial in Eternal formats, and being able to untap it and do it again somehow, also great. Since the set came out, strategies in all relevant formats have found reasons to include Rashadan Port. It may not be the flashiest card out there, but the utility speaks for itself, and I think we can all agree that when most players think about the impactful cards out of Mercadian Masques, they think of Rashadan Port first.